Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we are joining you on Monday afternoon. It's the day after a pretty tough day in the office for the Bears. A 52-21 blowout loss to the Lions. The Ben Johnson return did not go as many expected. It's quite clear, Joe. I kind of got wind of this toward the end of last week, or toward the end of middle of last week, where I understood for the most part that I think that Lions fans were upset that Ben Johnson left. Obviously, he's this great coach for them all these years, but I don't think I realized until the end of last week and Sunday just how mad the Lions fans were with Ben Johnson. I mean, he goes out there for pregame warmups, and it's constant booing, like huge booing. It's every time the Bears are on the field, he's on the field. There are boos. There are chants that I'm not going to repeat here on the airwaves. I guess before we get into the blowout loss, I guess I didn't truly realize, Joe, how big of a game this really was for the Lions, and maybe I underestimated that heading into things on Sunday.
Me too. And first of all, I do want to give you props because you said, I think we're going to see a shootout. Now, you didn't tell me the Lions were going to bring all the weapons.
Yeah.
They could have stopped like 20 points fewer or 21 points fewer. But first of all, you called it. You called a shootout, and that's what it ended up being.
One team did the shootout part, I guess.
Well, the Bears tried. They just couldn't. They kept being Bears. The Bears kept bearing. We'll get to that. But no, I didn't either. I thought it would be more like Ben Johnson, something to prove he's going back to the team, to the city where he excelled and made the Lions one of the top, if not top, offenses in the National Football League the last 2-3 years. And instead, it was like the Lions said, oh, yeah, you think it was all you? We'll show you that we still have the players, we still have the coaches, that we're going to turn it on you. So, you know what? Good for the Lions. Good for the Lions fans, because I don't think there's anyone in Chicago right now who is being empathetic about the Bears and Ben Johnson and wanting to be patient.
No, it was definitely a tough moment for them. It's just weird, it was just interesting. Throughout the game, you just started to realize more and more how much of this was a revenge game for the whole team, for the whole city. It felt like obviously the way things started against, I think their week one against Green Bay only made things worse for the Bears on Sunday. I think they were mad about the way things kind of went off. I think everyone in hot take sports land was saying that maybe Detroit's washed and, Green Bay's this great team. And Detroit's like, no, we just had one bad game. Obviously it's week one, and they came out in full force. I mean, you saw it with the the interception celebration of the stumble bum. You got all the different celebrations by the Lions player. And the Lions player said after the game, everyone said they love Ben Johnson. Jared Goff said that the chant, F Ben Johnson, that went a little bit too far by the fans. But they wanted to prove that they're more than Ben Johnson. And I think they did that. They showed that they have great playmakers like we expected. And they showed that they're a great, talented team that's likely to compete for the top spot in the NFC.
Yeah, and football's an emotional game. We hear it all the time. We think it's cliche. We think it's like, doesn't matter. It matters. I wish the Bears would play that kind of emotion, because I don't know what you could take positively. We're going to have to come up with a couple out of that game yesterday.
Yeah.
But energy matters in that sport. Doesn't matter in every sport. I don't think you need a lot of energy when you go try to hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Hockey's one, football's one. Bears didn't have it. The line, maybe the players fed off the fans. I would think that's the case. That's the hope, right? At the home crowd, but the fans were fired up and the Lions were fired up, and they wanted to remind. I think not only just the Bears or maybe the NFC, the entire National Football League, that they're still a Super Bowl contender, and they still have weapons. They still got their head coach. And they sure looked the part yesterday. Are the Bears that bad? I don't know, because if they're that bad, they're the worst team in the National Football League. We're looking at a top 3 pick in the draft. If they're that bad, and maybe they are, I said, a couple weeks ago, I've been saying it repeatedly. I think we'll know early on this season where the Bears are. Because silly me, because I should know better. I was optimistic. I really thought the coaching staff, what a fool I am, Michael. I really was optimistic. And I said we kind of know early. I'm thinking 5 games. I think 2 games in, especially if Jalen Johnson, we'll get to that, I'm sure, is done for a long time or maybe the season. I don't see how it's getting much better. I'm sure I'll be wrong. It's the NFL, any given Sunday, all that stuff. That's true too. They'll find a way to get wins. But right now, after these first 2 weeks, wow, I don't know what Bears fans did. Maybe I'm going to think, what did we do as a fan base to deserve this? It's like, what did the football gods say? You're cursed for the rest of this century, another 75 years of this in this century, because this is really bad. And we changed the coach, we changed the culture, we changed the coordinators. We're going to change the stadium eventually. And it's still bad, bad, bad.
Yeah, we'll get into what it all this kind of means. I do think that, the answer lies somewhere in the middle. I think that, the the Lions are very good. I don't think the Bears are that bad. I think, it's 2 games into the year, and we'll get into all that. But there's a lot to break down, and there's a lot to talk about. It for 2 weeks into the season. There are a lot of takes out there, and if you're joining us on the live stream, thanks so much for joining us. Rick is chiming in. I hate Ryan Poles. Other than that, everything is great. I think that statement kind of exemplifies how Bears fans are feeling. A lot of people in my mentions during the game were the sell the team chants were getting started. We're in full. We're 2 weeks into the season, Joe, but we are pretty much in full season mode at this point. I thought, where am I? Is it November? Like, am I about to celebrate Thanksgiving? Like, this is too soon, guys. It's only 2 weeks into things. But yeah, thanks so much, Rick, and thank you to everyone else who's joining us on the live stream. I know we're doing this on a little bit last minute. Obviously, had to travel back from Detroit and figure out when the Bears' availability is. So we're doing this on Monday afternoon. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thanks so much for listening. If you ever want to join us on the live stream, make sure you check out our social medias. That's when we post and share when we're going to be doing this live stream, so you can share your thoughts like Rick did, and kind of talk about what the heck just happened. A lot of times it's about losses. Sometimes it's about wins. But
sometimes,
Joe, sometimes. But I guess before we get into every game, we obviously like to do our 3 winners or 3 losers. But why don't we get into the breaking news that we kind of got here on Monday, mid-afternoon, Monday morning. And that pertained to one of the injuries that the Bears sustained on Sunday, Jalen Johnson. He came back, played his first game. He was in full strength and made a really impressive diving play to stop a pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And when he was down for a moment, it was kind of like, oh, just for like dramatic effect. Is he being funny? Like, kind of, giving the Lions a little taste of their own medicine. And then, he stayed down for a while, and he didn't get back up. After a while, he got up. He went to the medical tent, and then he went to the locker room. He didn't come back into the game. We learned today he left with a groin injury. We learned today first from ESPN's Courtney Cronin and Adam Schefter that it seems to be a severe groin injury that could potentially have him out for a good chunk of the season, or at least the whole season, depending on whether they decide to have surgery. And then Jordan Schultz also later on tweeted here that now it's feared that it's going to be for the whole season. Maybe they can get him back toward the end of the season if the Bears are in contention. We'll hear from Ben Johnson here at 3:00, so 15 minutes from right now. So if you're listening to the podcast, there'll be newer news. But the general reaction to this, Joe, is this is bad news. This is the Bears' top defensive player. I know it didn't look like it at the beginning, but I do feel like Jalen Johnson did make a little bit of an impact in that first half before he got injured. And listen, there's no way to really sugarcoat it. That defense without Jalen Johnson is not as good without it.
No, and this was the fear. We talked about it last week, 2 weeks ago, leading up to the season opener, about you want to be careful here. If he misses the opener against, essentially the rookie, J.J. McCarthy, that's one thing. Better that than if you're going up against Jared Goff or Jordan Love or Joe Burrow, in week one, season opener. So let's be careful here because you don't want him gone for the rest of the season. And then what happens? You bring him back. And, once an athlete's on the field, you can't just say, be careful, take it easy. Don't give 100%. They're going to go 100%. Right. And that play he made was a Pro Bowl caliber play, diving, break up to just get a finger on it and break up the play. That's what great players do. That's what Jalen Johnson does. Unfortunately, the injury happens, and that's you can't be shocked, right? And I know it's hard. I'm sure it's hard for the coaches. It's hard for the player. The player's never going to say, yeah, I better sit down again. But you said it, Michael. We've said it. That's your best player on the defense. And how bad did that secondary look yesterday? And other guys, again, they've already, banged up with no Kyler Gordon again. He might be your second best defensive player. He shouldn't be. It should be Montez Sweat. That's another story.
We'll get there. Don't worry. We'll get to that part.
You lost Zay Frazier before it even got going. And then you lost Terrell Smith in the preseason. So they're already depleted going into the season, more depleted once the season starts. And now if he's gone, that's why it's just going to be real difficult for this team. Not that you're going to face Jared Goff every week, but there's still a lot of good quarterbacks. We talked about how tough the schedule is this season in general. And now you got him out. Wow. Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe the McLeod kid or Nashawn Wright, they more opportunities and more reps, they get better. But, you're not going to replace Jalen Johnson. We all know that. And it's just really a really rough blow if he looks like we're not going to count on him anytime soon. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be. We'll hear from Ben Johnson and we'll see what the latest. But it doesn't seem good at all. The T.J. Edwards injury also didn't look good. He, got caught up trying to chase. I think it was Jamison Williams. It was either Jamison. Yeah, it was Jamison Williams. And you saw him trying to sprint after him and pulled up and grabbed that hamstring. And obviously we'll get an update about T.J. too, but that didn't look good either. It is one of those things where, you get these soft tissue injuries early in the year, and I've heard complaints, but this is just an NFL thing. I don't know whether it's just because training camp isn't, as whatever you want to call it, tough or whatever, but it's obviously not the same what it used to be before with the preseason games, and I don't know if that plays a factor in it, but you've got 3 starters on your defense out with soft tissue injuries, and those are major 3 players. Like T.J. Edwards manning the middle is very important, and Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson both back there are really important. They've all suffered with some injuries, so it's not good. And that's a good way to kind of transition to our wins and losses. Obviously, with such a blowout, we're going to start with the losses. Joe, who's your first loser from Sunday's game?
Wow. I've got 15 candidates. We could pick one. Where do you start? The biggest loser, Dennis Allen. I expected. Am I that gullible? I think we all expected better. And I know, he can't go out there and rush the passer himself, but he's supposed to scheme better. You just got 52, 53 points. I couldn't keep up after a while. I couldn't keep adding that much after a while. You got to be able to figure out how to stop it. I don't care who's out. I don't care if you got a bunch of JV guys and you're coming in off the bench, Michael. You got to figure it out and stop it. They looked. I don't know if I have anything positive to say at all about the defensive effort from the players to the coaching. And I'm not a coach. I'm not saying what would I have schemed up? What would I have cooked up? I don't know, but stop it. You can't allow. I don't care about the fans playing inside on their field. To allow 50-some points week 2, embarrassed like that, and I don't know what the rest of the season holds out, but that's going to be it better be your worst game of the season, and we've only played 2 so far. So I'll say Dennis Allen because, man, oh man, I have so much respect for that guy, and his resume is pretty impressive, but that's not all on him. It's never all on the coach. That's a lot of it. He's got to own a lot of that.
I'll piggyback off of yours, and I'll go with the lack of a pass rush. And I'm curious to know how much, it's tough for me because I think the scheme is there, right? I think he's throwing different fronts at them. I think he could have done a better job of adjusting on the fly and realizing that Jared Goff was attacking up the middle and maybe securing that, maybe doing, I know he went to a zone coverage rarely, a couple times. Sometimes it got burned that way. So I don't know if going to zone really was going to be an answer there. But my first loser is the lack of a pass rush. It's not there. And I think all offseason, I think the general thought, I think everyone, we focused in on the left tackle, we focused in on the quarterback, and those are obviously important parts. But throughout the offseason, during training camp, I was just kind of like, is this defense going to pressure the quarterback? They brought in Dayo Adangbo as their prize, pass rusher to go opposite of Montez Sweat. They brought in Grady Jarrett up the middle. They drafted Shamar Turner. And you ended up with a performance where you didn't get a sack. I know Montez Sweat had a sack, but then it was nullified because of offsetting penalties. So I guess you can say they had one sack, but Jared Goff had all day back there. He was able to find, Amon-Ra St. Brown had time to get into his route and get up the middle and then, burn Tyreek Stevenson. He was able to throw the ball deep to find Jamison Williams for those deep passes. Jared Goff had all the time in the world. And, Joe, I agree with you. Could there be some better schemes and that sort of stuff? Sure. Could you adjust to what the Lions are doing a little bit better? I agree. But at some point, your players just need to play the game, right? Like, you need to get to the quarterback. You're going against a new center and a new guard, and you can't bully that. You can't do anything from the middle. You didn't get much pressure from your middle. Dio kind of got some pressure at the beginning of the game, but then it all just kind of died after halftime, and you just didn't see anything. So I agree. I think maybe there could have been some game plan adjustments and that sort of stuff, but for me, it just feels like you just got to make the plays, and there's no pass rush at all 2 games into the season for the Bears defense.
No, I mean, I don't disagree at all. Montez Sweat, we thought maybe he had to be hurt last year, right? Because we know he's better than that. And then 2 games here, two games without a sack. Is he hurt? Or is he just not good? Does he really need a complimentary player? He sure looked great in 2023 after they got him, and then he got paid. And since he got paid, has he really done much? He didn't even have a great finish to the 2023 season, if you remember. He cooled off at the end there. And he's got to make plays. And I know it's hard. You're getting double team, triple team, whatever. Too bad. You're supposed to be a great player. You can put 8 guys on Micah Parsons, he'll get a sack. I know they play different positions, but he's not making an impact. And I know we'll keep saying this, and we'll keep saying it's early, it's 2 games, it's early, it's 2 games, it's 3 games, it's 1 game. It's not early. It's not early. You gotta go right now, because this team right now as a whole looks like they need 3 more months of training camp to get it going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 2 games into the year, we could be talking later in the year, and it's going to be their 500 and they're battling, and sometimes you need a kick in the butt, like sometimes you need to get kicked in the teeth, like Ben Johnson said. Like but I agree. This isn't the response we wanted to see from a new coaching staff 2 games into the year. I think if you win Monday night and then this game happens on Sunday, I think the reaction, it still stinks, obviously, but I think it's much more muted because you're just kind of like, all right, that team was in the NFC Championship game or contending for an NFC Championship game. We're still learning. And I think that would probably play a factor. But I do agree. You need to show off more, and you got to be more competitive in these types of matchups. And obviously that just did not happen. Joe, who's your second loser of the game?
Well, I'll go again with the guy who didn't wear a uniform on Sunday. That's Ryan Poles. Oh boy, where do we start? Where do we begin? This is like another hour conversation we could have just on the draft class, right? So far, by my count, Luther Burden and Colston Loveland each have 2 catches. So they're on pace for, if my math is correct, 17 catches each. And we know they've not made an impact. I'm not saying they're bad players. I like both guys. I think they're going to be great. They should be great. Like, starting now, let's go. They're not being utilized. They're not playing. Ozzy Trapillo, what's going on with this? Are we already calling this a wasted pick? Because you can't play left tackle. And the left tackle, for some reason, Braxton Jones has gotten worse. Maybe he's not healthy still. That's another hour conversation too. We've already had that conversation a lot. He's a healthy scratch. Shamir Turner, is he actually a person? You've seen him right at Hallis Hall?
I saw him yesterday. I saw him working out before the game. Yeah.
All right. So he is a person.
Yeah.
And he was drafted by this team in the second round. He's been I guess he's still hurt. I guess, right? He is still hurt. He's inactive. Who am I missing here? We mentioned
Karan. You didn't play your third round pick from last year isn't playing.
Yeah. What's going on here? And then he got the extension, so he'll be here another 10, 20 years, Ryan Poles, I guess. So this team, and I couldn't tell you, like, after 2 games, who are the leading candidates for Rookie of the Year. I haven't looked at all the draft picks and who's making an immediate impact, if any, really, off the top of my head. Well, we saw what the number 1 pick did yesterday, Cam Ward with that throw, but you know what I mean. The running backs. How many times have we talked about the running back issue? Why didn't you get one in the offseason? If you thought you had the guys there, or Kylie Minogue, what's his name? Kyle Monongai. That was a little joke there, by the way, to Kylie Minogue. If he was going to be the guy and you're counting on a 7th round pick that could be an impact player, no, that's a mess. So I'm calling this on the GM, because this is not like maybe it is in the Bears case, a 6-year rebuild. You're already in desperate mode coming into this season, and we're getting no help from the draft class. And we know, look, if they're going to be showing potential this year, showing signs that 2026 looks a little more promising, or 2027, then Luther Burden and Colston Loveland are going to be a big part of that. So I do suspect they won't continue this 1 catch per game average pace, but certainly you'd like to see a little more from those guys starting Sunday against Dallas.
Yeah, Rick had the same thought as you did. Big loser, Ryan Poles, 2 healthy second-round picks inactives. His first-round pick is 0 catches, and his other second-round pick is a kick returner. I'm doing a bear down, nerd up, and I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. Make sure to check out all the stats tomorrow. But, Colston Loveland has 12 yards on 2 receptions. He's been targeted 3 times and has played 55% of the snaps. Luther Burden has 2 yards on 2 receptions for 3 targets. Ozzie Trapillo has played 5 special team snaps in week 1 and was inactive in game 2. Shamar Turner didn't play in either game. He was inactive in game 2. Zay Frazier is on NFI, won't play. Hippolyte has 4 tackles, has mostly played on special teams. Luke Newman has 3 offensive snaps and 8 special team snaps. And Kyle Monongai has 28 rushing yards on 7 carries, 19 receiving yards on 2 receptions, 4 targets. So your 7th round running back has more targets, receiving yards, and the same amount of catches as your 1st round tight end and your 2nd round wide receiver. By the way, Tyler Warren had a great game yesterday for Indianapolis as the Colts move on to 2-0. I agree, and I understand the argument of, you need to use Colston Loveland for protection. Okay, but then if protection was your need, then maybe you should have drafted an offensive lineman with number 10 or traded up for number 10. Yes. If it's that big of a need, I understand if you need to use Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland to shore up the left side or whatever. I get that. But then maybe at number 10, you shouldn't be drafting a tight end. Maybe at number 39, you don't go for the luxury pick of a top wide receiver and you go for an offensive tackle or something else. Or you go for a pass rusher. It's just, I agree. It's not good. It doesn't look good right now. Your 3rd round pick from last year isn't playing. Zach Pickens, you cut him a couple years ago. Jervon Dexter isn't generating too much for you, your 2nd round pick. It's not looking good. Your 1st round, Caleb Williams I thought he looked fine in week 2, and we can get into that a little bit later. And Rome Odunze obviously he's your number 1 receiver without a doubt, and that's going to be our good later on. But everything else is just not good. And I agree. I don't know, these 1st and 2nd round picks can't be luxury picks that you stash away. These are your players who are making an impact for you right away, and they're not doing that right now. I don't know whether it's scheme. I don't know whether it's not getting Ben Johnson's trust, but whatever. And for all we know, it could be Colston isn't ready, Luther Burden isn't ready, and they're not putting in the work. And maybe that's on them. I'm not saying that it's on Ben Johnson, but something clearly is not working. and some part of the scouting process is not doing well at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I think you nailed it on the head here. In my 3 and out column we do at Shaw Local, I jokingly had one of the 3 positives or whatever being Tory Taylor. That was really mostly a joke, and the only thing I really said there was at least he plays. The Bears took so much criticism for that pick, 4th round pick, Tory Taylor, the punter. But at least he plays. The other guys don't play. I mean, you could have taken another offensive line, a long snapper project guy in the 4th round. He'd probably be sitting the bench too somewhere. At least the punter plays. And that's really sad that we're talking about the punter. It's even sad that we talk about Cairo Santos. I haven't talked about Cairo Santos yet. Hopefully we don't even have to today. But this is a wreck. And this is Ryan Poles, who got extended somehow. Somehow he got a contract extension in the offseason. Why? Because he got the head coach that everyone wanted? Okay, I'll give you credit there because I'm not giving up on Ben Johnson yet. But man, oh man. And again, I like Loveland. I like the pick.
Yeah, I think he's a very talented player. Yeah.
Then we talking about who's going to be the Bears Rookie of the Year. And you got Loveland, I've got Bird. We're like, let's hope we're having a conversation in January about this and how both those guys just crushed it this year. Well, they're not on pace to do it, but I'm not giving up on them. I like them both. But can I see the football in their hands, please?
That would be nice. I don't know. Maybe we'll ask Ben Johnson about it today because that's been going around the last couple of days, and you know how it is after a game. You can't get all these types of questions in particularly, but yeah, it's a major topic, and I'm sure if it is Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles is like, what are we doing, dude? Like, come on, help me out here a little bit. And if it is Ben Johnson, he's like, come on, dude, what are we doing here? Help me out here. But something very clearly is now working 2 games into things. All right, my next negative goes to the officials. And I thought the game was relatively well officiated. I don't think anything was crazy, but Robert chiming in. Hi, Robert, from across the pond. Great to hear from you. Officials, losers again. What the heck was that play before halftime? And I agree. That wasn't that I'm sure if you watch the game, obviously, the incredible catch down the sideline. One official said he was out of bounds. One official said he was in bounds. There's confusion. One official's telling Ben Johnson that there's no time left on the clock. Go to the locker room. And then as they're making the announcement on the speaker overhead, the head official says that there's still 6 seconds left, and there's just it was all poorly done. And I understand that maybe there's confusion or whatever, but it's very clear that he went out of bounds. The clock should have stopped. And we got the official word after the game, and even that official word was kind of confusing, but the thought process was this clock should have stopped at 16 seconds. Then you do a 10-second, you get rid of 10 seconds because of the Lions not having a timeout. So they had 6 seconds left, but that should have been communicated much better. That should have been done much better. And, quite honestly, like you need to say that, let's get a stop in that moment. I think you're going into the locker room. Like, you kind of start to cool down at least a little bit, right? But then you're told to go back on and get a 4th down stop. And Jared Goff just does the same play he does to Amon-Ra St. Brown all the time. Quick in and out, hits him right on the money. Like, I know we pick on Tyreek Stevenson, but that's just a play where it's like, they do that all the time, man. Like, they just know it, 1-2 step, I'm going to hit you. Like, they have it down pat. So that was just all bad. I think just the whole experience, the confusion toward the end of the half, because you go from getting a big stop and it being a 7-point game to start the second half to it's a 14-point game and you got to figure things out quickly. So I didn't like the end of that first half at all. I thought that was all jumbled up and that could have been handled a much better way.
Yeah, I agree. And that, in my 3 things that mattered, that wasn't one of mine. It should have been. That really should have been one of my things that mattered because that did matter. For exactly the reason you said. And the Bears had scored. The offense finally stopped getting out of it. Stopped getting in its way to pull within 21-14. It's late, less than 2 minutes. I think, to go there. Just stop him once. Give him a first down, stop him, and go into halftime down a touchdown. Instead, that whole drive happens, and then the T-Slaw kid, how about the catch he made, by the way? And they got him, third round, because that's what good teams do. They find guys in the third round,
Yes.
He makes a spectacular catch, and then bang. But the ref screwed that up. The replay clearly showed that he was down inbounds. Tyree Stevenson looked like his knee hit his helmet or his shoulder pads or whatever. So he was down. That was confusion, and that hurt because now then the next play, bam, and it's back to a 2-touchdown game. And the Bears come out second half. The offense again, just like against Minnesota, second half, they come out, boom, let's get momentum. Nope, they look like it's day one of camp again, and then it just got out of control.
Yeah, it was just crazy, and obviously, it was an insane catch by Tesla. That was amazing catch. That was the one time I was kind of like, all right, Tyreek. Those back-to-back plays were kind of where I was kind of like, all right, Tyreek, like you've gotten burned a lot today, but I don't know what you're supposed to do on both of those plays. All right, Joe, what's your last loser of the day?
All right, so I've gone with two guys on a uniform, Dennis Allen, Ryan Poles, and I'll just make it consistent. I'll go with the third guy on a uniform, and that's Ben Johnson. And I didn't think I'd be saying that all year. I said in the preseason they looked well coached. There were they looked coached in the offseason, the preseason games, for what those are worth. But I believed in the guy. I still believe in him, but you got to call it like it is, right? He's 0-2, and his team's that's a bad loss on Monday night to the Vikings to open with that fourth quarter disaster. And then they play pretty much 4 quarters of disaster. Well, it wasn't all bad for 4 quarters, but you got embarrassed. They dropped 50 plus on you. That can't happen. And he's a very confident guy. I understand, like any person who's successful in life, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And that's okay if you're winning, maybe a little bit. Some people think that. But man, when you've gotten off to this start, you're not playing disciplined football. And look, if you want to blame the players, and dumb it down for them. If it's still too early in the process, dumb it down. You have to know your personnel. I understand he's still learning it, but you even mentioned like back, I don't want to keep bringing up the Minnesota game, but the Cairo Santos kick at the end of the game when he should have kicked it out of bounds, and like, well, he told him to kick it out of bounds. He couldn't. And you're like, well, shouldn't he know that the guy can't kick it out of bounds? You're right. He should. So you just need to start figuring it out, because it's a long season, but it's a short season, right? You get one game a week, and you can't get off to this start. And if he's supposed to be the next boy wonder, if he's supposed to be the next Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, whoever, you can't have your football team off to this start. And you can't just say it's all bad execution and unfortunate injuries to key players. It's got to come down on him too. So Ben Johnson, come on, man, you're better than this.
I agree. I thought we thought it was going to be better, especially for all the rhetoric about the disciplined play and that sort of stuff. And that kind of goes into my last loser. It's the pre-snap penalties again. The turnovers were not, the DeAndre Swift turnover. I was kind of like, all right, like that's a little tough. But Branch got his helmet on, and it's just kind of a tough play. Like very clearly, Branch was made a nice defensive play on it. The Caleb Williams interception I didn't love. Obviously off a scramble. Those are the moments where he needs to learn and just be like, all right, live to fight another day. I know. But again, that interception was done because you get a holding penalty, move you 10 yards back, and then you get a face mask penalty on your offensive lineman, on your left tackle. I've never seen that before. I've never seen an offensive lineman be called for a face mask penalty. It's just those things, and that just kills drives, man. Like the first 2 plays on those drives, DeAndre Swift was getting getting some momentum. He picked up 14 yards on 2 rushes, and then that happened. So it's just the pre-snap penalties again. It's not good. It needs to get fixed. I honestly thought, the first drive, it's insanely loud in there. I can't think at all. It's like so loud in that stadium. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, the silent count. But the Bears actually did a pretty good job of running that silent count, I feel like. But then you get plays like that where you're just like, man, it's just killing the offense. And you need to figure it out quickly, because it can't continue like this. Like these are just mistakes that are really hurting any sort of progress that you want to make offensively.
Yep, no arguments there. I mean, how come other teams don't jump offside? I don't know. I don't know what the stats are through 2 weeks. Are they the most penalized team in the National Football?
I think I heard they're third on the list. There are 2 more penalized teams. Yeah, third.
Yeah, there you go. For a team that still has the training wheels on its offense, right? So you can't have it. So completely agree there. And this offensive line, and we can do 15 negatives after this game. But the O-line, and it's not just the linemen, it's the DJ Moores, it's DeAndre Swift before the first snap of the game, right? He was whistled for illegal procedure, I believe. Or was that the second half? But
that was the second half.
Second half, right? Thank you. So it's on everybody. Is that the quarterback? Messing everybody up. I don't know, but a lot was talked during the week about his cadence, and going to the silent count, etc. Right. The interception, I think, was 2nd and 29. And how bad is his aim? I know he wasn't hit on the play. I know he's throwing on the run. I know throwing a football is hard. But how bad is your aim? That ball should be 15 yards out of bounds. He's not going to get called for intentional grounding. Throw it 15 yards out of bounds. And somehow he managed to throw it in bounds. And then Kirby Joseph was a great player. I mean, they got great safeties in Branch and Kirby Joseph. He makes a diving interception, like a defensive guy making a play. Imagine that for your team, the team you root for. That's a great play by him. But Caleb, come on, man, stop doing that.
Definitely a learning moment for him. I don't know. It's one of those things I feel like, I said to be careful. He's been careful with the ball when we were doing our preview, and maybe go for it and letting it rip. Those aren't the moments when you will let it rip. Those are the moments where you just got to throw it away and get rid of it and live to fight another day. Other guys chiming in. Robert Johnson's offense can't operate without a decent run game, but main problem now is the defense. Also said that Stevenson is a loser, just too slow, got burned after time after time. I would agree with that. Who else is what else do we have out there? I saw some more there. Picking the punter in the 4th round is the worst. Rick chiming in there.
Rick, he plays at least.
CJ chiming in. Good to hear from you, CJ. There was no attempt to try Darnell left tackle and Ozzie at right tackle. That should have gone to look at least. I think maybe it would have done it, but I do think that it very clearly was to them that they didn't like that idea at all. So I don't know whether it's just Darnell not being able to play left or what have you, but it very clearly seemed to them that it didn't really make sense to me. I'm going to have an honorable mention for loser before we go on the positive here. You could not have scripted it any better, Joe, to start that game off with Cairo Santos kicking it off out of bounds. A week after the Bears decided not to kick the ball out of bounds to preserve time in the 2-minute warning, he kicks it out of bounds. And I just, I don't believe in the whole NFL script thing. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But then there are moments like that where you're just like, that's not real. Like someone told him to do that. Like Roger Goodell's like chiming in and telling him to kick it out of. When that happened, I was like, this is not real life. And Ben Johnson gave Cairo the vote of confidence after Sunday's game. Obviously, they signed Jake Moody to the practice squad. He still believes in him, but that was just kind of like a funny moment to start the game where I was like, come on, like that's not real. Like, are we really doing this?
I agree. I don't know if I've ever watched a football game, even especially for the Bears. Again, I've been a fan a long time, where before the first snap, I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go again. Because that was like, here he goes. He can't even keep the ball in bounds. And now you give this real good offense. You knew it was good. You knew it was better than what it showed against Green Bay. Now they have the short field. 60 yards later, what was it, a 5-play drive? Boom, 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 they're in. It's like, here we go again. And you hate, but it's like when you're so used to getting beat up, when you're not expecting good things to happen, and maybe it becomes, it's only 2 games in the season, but you start to expect bad things. And I'm sure that every man on the Bears would say, oh, that didn't bother us. We had to go out and play do our 111, do our job. But man, you give them a short field right off the bat, and before you can even basically take your first sip of your Pepsi, you're down 7-0. So that was a bad start. And you were looking for something. Let's hit him in the face, something positive right away. And of course, we didn't get it.
No, we didn't. All right, Joe, let's go to the positive. We got a few minutes left here.
Perfect.
Luckily, I don't think there's much. We don't really need that much time to talk about the positives. Who's a winner for you, Joe?
Well, I think everyone will probably agree here. It's got to be Rome Odunze. I know he had a drop, another play he may could have made, but still 7 catches, 128 receiving, both career best. Those numbers will get better too. I think those aren't going to be his career best for the rest of the season. He'll have better games, the 2 touchdowns. We're starting to see it with him. Is he a finished product? Is he a number 1 receiver right now? No, but I thought he was really good. You saw what he can do, and 5 catches in the first half. I thought, let's build on it. They really didn't build on it. They couldn't because they've got it out of control at the end, and then midway through the fourth, everyone's on the bench. But I thought Rome was someone to be excited about, and let's see. Hopefully, he can build off that, and I think he's going to end up having the best season of any receiver. That's fair to say.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I was tweeting this during the game, but the Caleb Williams Rome Odunze connection is clicking, and that's a great thing for Bears fans. It's very clear that Rome is becoming Caleb's number 1 target now. Like, he's looking for Rome, and last year they kind of fell apart because of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen kind of became the safety net, but he's looking for Rome a lot, and that is good because Rome can make plays, man. He showed you that, and I know he dropped that tight pass they probably should have caught, but he's making plays out of nothing sometimes. He's making great routes. His first touchdown, that was like, what, a 5-yard pass that he sees what he has in front of him and takes 28 yards for a touchdown. Like, the second touchdown is a great move to create space at the goal line for, Caleb Williams after the pocket kind of collapses around him. Mm-hmm. After the game, Rome was like, well, I obviously would have wanted to win the game, but I that's got to be huge, man, especially for what this team can be if Rome and Caleb are really good with each other. That's got to be a big winner. So, yeah, that's an obvious winner. I mean, career day for Rome. So that's a big win for me. First drives, Joe, those unscripted plays are going well. They're 2 for 2 on that. After the Lions just went down the field and put it on the Bears, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long day. And then the Bears just responded. DeAndre Swift had a great run, 20 yards to kind of get him out of bad territory. DJ Moore with a nice 20-yard catch. And then Caleb hits Rome Odunze for the touchdown. They're 2 for 2 on scoring touchdowns on their opening drive after failing to do it last year. And that's huge. Obviously, you want that to translate for the rest of the game. But we've seen worse. And I think it's good to see that they can kind of build momentum at the start of the game at least.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my number 2 positive too. Again, there weren't many. We're already, running out of options here for positive plays. But yes, for everything you said there, the opening drive, and again, they were moving them all pretty well there. The DeAndre Swift fumble was really unfortunate because they were inside the 35, I think the 32 when he fumbled there. Looked like they were going to get at least a field. They were going to get at least a field goal. They were moving the ball. And then that happened, and then they were playing catch up, and then we talked about some of the things that happened. But yes, and the Bears didn't score at all on the opening drive all last season. They were horrific, and a lot of times it was 3 and out on their first drive, let alone not get any points. So that is a positive, and that is a positive for Ben Johnson too, because that's him and Declan Doyle. So yes, we got 2.
All right, Joe, you got anything else? Can you muster up another? I won't make us. I don't think we can do 3 each. I really don't. Maybe people in the comment section can help us come up with stuff. But do you have another one that you want to add or can come up with?
The kid who gets the kicking tee off the field after the kickoffs, but he was excellent. Thought he showed a lot of great anticipation. I think his name is Johnny Johnson III. Really good job by him. Really instinctive, hustled. And I think he did a little trash talking to the Lions players as he was running off the field. So my is the kid who retrieves the kicking tee, Johnny Johnson, as my number 3 positive from the game.
All right, my last one. I'll wrap us up here. There are 15 games left in the year, guys. It's 2 games into the year, and I'm not. Listen, I am well aware that there are issues. There are defensive injuries. There are problems. I'm not here to tell you that everything is great and dandy and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the Cowboys come into town on Sunday, and you saw how they played with the Giants on Sunday. I know they won that game, but that wasn't pretty either. And I think, listen, like I said last week, it was game 1. This is game 2. And I think that's the biggest thing that the Bears kind of had. It seems like it would be crazy if Ben Johnson lost his locker room 2 games into his career. That would be insane. But everyone's saying the right stuff at the end of the game. It's just a game. You learn from it. Ben Johnson talked about how he's been part of plenty of, teeth kickings in his career. And that's just part of the way of life sometimes. And sometimes you get beat. It didn't look pretty. I think some solace can be taken in that. Listen, it was a 21-14 game with 2 minutes left in the first half. And I think that your defense came up with some stops here or there. You just need to take the next step, right? You need the offense to not come out of the second half and go 3 and out with 3 bad plays. You need your defense to make some more stops. But there are 15 games left in the season. I'm not here to tell you that it's all going to be great and the Bears are still going to make the playoffs. But I also don't think it's doom and gloom and that the Bears are only going to win 2 or 3 games and that they're going to get the number 1 pick. I think that the Bears are still, like I predicted it earlier in the year, they're in the middle somewhere. They're going to have these great games where they look great, and that could happen on Sunday against the Cowboys, and they're going to have bad games like Sunday against the Lions. There's still a lot of games left to be played, and I think, this team can start 0-2 and look terrible, but I think by the end of the year, if they've got momentum toward the end of the year, Caleb looks like he's the quarterback and they figured some stuff out and they finish the season with 8 or 7 wins. I think you're feeling much better than you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you're looking ahead at Dallas, 3:25 kickoff, right? 3:25 p.m. kickoff Sunday. They're not. They gave up 40 to Russell Wilson and the Giants, so that's not a great defense. They weren't even great last year with Micah Parsons. So I expect Caleb and the offense to play well. Defensively, though, especially because it's almost certainty that Jalen Johnson's not going to play, and hopefully get Kyler Gordon back. That would be a reason for optimism if he could play. But no, the sun came up today. It'll come up Sunday. That's my prediction.
It will continue to do so.
It'll do so. So, let's build. And you're right. I mean, we've kind of really, everyone's been saying it all year long. It's like this season won't necessarily be about wins and losses, even though everyone says it's always about winning and losing. It won't be. It'll be about the development of the young players. And if we see some positive plays, some catches and runs after catch from Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, and continue more from Rome and more accuracy from Caleb. You'd like to win Sunday. They can win Sunday. Dallas is not going to the Super Bowl this year. So they're beatable. You're at home. That's good. Hopefully the crowd will be fired up and not booing too early, and we'll see what happens.
It will be, it's interesting. I feel like we're always like terrible are things, and obviously the Cowboys won, but I mean, you could be the Cowboys and you traded Micah Parsons away, and it could always be worse, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But that's everything that we've got for this podcast. We got to get out of here. I got to go listen to what Ben Johnson's going to say. But thanks so much to everyone who joined us. Thank you to all the guys who chimed in on the chat. Great to get your guys' comments. Really appreciate it. Make sure you like this podcast, this live stream, to make sure that other people can join the chat. If you're listening on the podcast, and you want to be part of the conversation, make sure you follow our social medias. We try to do this every Monday and Friday morning. Obviously my travel sometimes gets in the way of that, so sometimes we'll have to do Monday afternoon or Tuesday, but we'll try to stay on a regular schedule as much as possible. Follow Joe at Joe Aguilar 64. He's got your Northwest Herald sports coverage coming up, so make sure you follow him there. And I am at Dwojak 94 on all social medias. Like I said, Ben Johnson talks today, so I'll have that story. And obviously, I'll have the latest from Hallis Hall before we talk to you folks again on Friday as we preview the Dallas and Bears matchup on Sunday afternoon. But like Joe said, the sun will come out tomorrow and everything will be fine. And until then, we'll talk to you folks down the road.